Is it the rent, the job interview, the medical results, or the relationship you're trying to save? We spend so much of our lives creating thousands of scenarios in our minds, replaying conversations, predicting outcomes, and preparing for disasters that haven't even happened yet, only to realize that most of them never happen. And when they do, they happen completely different from what we expected. So then, why worry? Why carry all this unnecessary weight that's beyond our control? Jesus actually addressed this with his disciples. In this video, you'll learn how Jesus taught a completely different way to deal with anxiety, one that challenges how we usually respond whenever we worry. And one of his most surprising lessons comes through a strange comparison between King Solomon and a flower?
Huh?
When it comes to worrying, we have this natural instinct to believe that worrying means we're being responsible. So we end up having this worldview that life is secured by efforts, that if you think enough, plan enough, stress enough, things will be okay. It makes anxiety feel like preparation, like you're being a responsible adult. So the idea of just not worrying sounds naive and irresponsible. But then Jesus drops a reality check in Luke 12 and says, "Which of you, by worrying, has added a single hour to your life?" So then, if worrying doesn't actually do anything, why does it feel so necessary? Like, why do we keep doing something that produces no results? And why does anxiety feel like action when it changes absolutely nothing about what happens? It's like sitting in a rocking chair. There's constant motion, but you're actually not going anywhere. So that raises the question, if worrying isn't accomplishing anything, what are we supposed to do instead? To answer that, Jesus does something unexpected. He points to ravens. Look at these birds. They don't plant, harvest, or store food in houses or barns, but God feeds them. So how much more valuable you are than birds? Now, be careful how you interpret this. He's not saying be lazy and don't work, but rather stop being controlling, because being controlling means you put your trust in your own efforts and not God's. So when anxiety takes over and we're constantly worrying, planning, and trying to secure our future out of fear, we're actually going against God's design. He never intended for us to live like everything depends on our efforts, because we end up carrying a weight we were never meant to carry. When you think about it, all that worry doesn't provide for us. It just makes us suffer. So the question isn't whether we should work or plan ahead. It's, am I living as though everything depends on me? Work hard, be responsible, but don't put your trust in your anxiety or your ability to control the future. Just put your trust in God's design. But I know what some of you might be thinking. That's easier said than done. And Jesus knew that. So he didn't just leave it there. To further prove his points, Jesus makes a bizarre comparison between King Solomon and a flower. Like, imagine being compared to something so tiny and fragile as a flower. But that was the point. He says, consider how they grow. They don't work, they don't try, they just exist. And yet Solomon, in all his glory, could not outshine or outdress one of these. Think about what that comparison actually means. It's saying that wisdom, wealth, and status are like fancy clothes people put on. They can make someone look important, powerful, and impressive, like Solomon, who represents the highest level of human success. But then Jesus compares him with a wildflower, which has none of that. It doesn't try to be wise, rich, or important. It just grows. Like, it's just so humbling how a wildflower, without trying, can be more beautiful, more perfect than anything we could ever hope to achieve. It's completely backwards to how we measure value and security. God's care outperforms the best human effort. Not by a little, but by so much. The comparison is almost funny. So Jesus makes it very clear. By default, in God's design, creation is already cared for. The birds are fed, the flowers are clothed, and life is sustained without needing them to take control of it. It's a bit like going to school and your dad making sure you have everything you need. Food, shelter, books, pens. He's not asking you to carry the burden of providing for yourself while studying. He already knows what you need in order to get through school. And this is where Jesus' final message really lands. Seek first the kingdom of God, and these things will be added to you. In other words, if you put God's kingdom first, you don't have to keep worrying about your other needs. Those things aren't ignored. They're just no longer your burden to carry. That way, you can focus on the kingdom itself, while He provides what you need to pursue it. Personally, for me, once I realized how much care and provision God has over every one of His creations, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, it gave me an incredible sense of peace, to the point where worrying feels almost pointless now. But there's this one verse I haven't shared yet that really sold it for me. He says, "And if God cares so wonderfully for flowers that are here today and thrown into the fire tomorrow, He will certainly care for you." For someone to care that deeply for something that may only last a single day, that alone speaks volumes about God's love for even the most delicate parts of His creation. So if you ever feel abandoned, unloved, or forgotten by the world, just think of the flowers. If your Father in heaven cares that much about a flower that may wither by tomorrow, how much more does He love and provide for someone like you? So the next time you're worrying about your future, maybe ask yourself, am I trusting my anxiety or the one who clothes the flowers?